Oh, I'm going to stand up in the banjo slide.
Okay. I like having a wingman.
Yeah.
The League of Historic American Theaters Award for Outstanding Individual Contribution recognizes an individual who has demonstrated vision, dedication, selflessness, and excellence through his or her contribution to historic theaters and their communities. I am deeply honored to be able to present this year's award to someone who exemplifies all of those ideals, but who is also largely responsible for there even being a League of Historic American Theaters in the first place. In 1968, Michael Price became executive director of Goodspeed Musicals at Goodspeed Opera House in East Haddam, Connecticut, and he wasted no time in building the Opera House into a force in the American theater. But he didn't stop there. Michael believed that audiences around the country should have the same good fortune as those who were coming to his opera house to experience the glory of historic architecture while attending the theater. So in July of 1973, a handful of people, 5 to be exact, gathered at the Goodspeed Opera House to discuss forming a national network of historic theaters because they recognized that operating a historic theater has its own set of unique challenges as well as advantages. By 1976, the League of Historic American Theaters was born, and Michael Price had become the League's first ever president. While that alone might be enough to have him win this award, we honor him today for so much more, for setting impossibly high standards and meeting them time and time again, and in so doing, make us believe that anything is possible. It is through his dedication and passion that Goodspeed has not only survived, but thrived. Mr. Price dedicated himself to the building and its theatrical productions. And that's so important, I'm going to repeat that. It was the building and the art that went in it. Because he recognized that neither could survive without the other. So we made sure that the formal mission statement of the Goodspeed Opera House Foundation included both preserving the Opera House and producing musicals. His accomplishments at Goodspeed are really the stuff of legend. In a theater that was built in 1876 and that seats 398, Goodspeed has staged more than 250 classic and forgotten musicals. It has staged 100 new musicals and has transferred 19 of those to Broadway, including a few you might have heard of: Man of La Mancha, Shenandoah, and Annie. Goodspeed Productions have won a total of 13 Tony Awards. They've received 33 Tony nominations, and the Goodspeed itself has been honored with 2 special Tony Awards, the first theater in the country to be so recognized. Over 4.5 million visitors have come to the Opera House to enjoy the building and its productions. Now, on a personal note, and Michael probably doesn't remember this, but I attended my first League conference in 1981. I was 5 years old. Actually, I was 26 years old. I was wide-eyed and full of a lot more questions than answers. And I remember very clearly Michael's keynote address to all 50 of us that were gathered there. And at one point he paused and he gazed at us and he said, "You know, we're all just dreamers, really." And that struck a chord with me, and it has stuck with me all these years. And it stuck with me because he's right. Everyone in this room today is a dreamer. And because of Michael's incredible vision and magical leadership, the League he helped to form continues to help others make their dreams come true. Now, Michael has recently announced his retirement from Goodspeed this year, and since timing is everything in the theater, it is altogether fitting that we present the 2014 League of Historic American Theaters Award for Outstanding Individual Contribution to one of our organization's founders, a visionary, and a dreamer, Michael Price.
To me, this is a very, very exciting moment. From the small nucleus that gathered in my office, and actually our first meeting was at the New London, Connecticut train station, because Gene Chesley, who had a cherished list of all of the theaters at that time that were being restored and scheduled for adaptive reuse, was traveling between Boston and New York, and he said, I could stop at the New London station for an hour and we'll meet. And it was at that time, and I really share this in terms of founding with those who came from the Grand Opera House in Wilmington and the Folly in Kansas City, and Sarah Shelley, who was then my assistant, who ground out on the mimeograph machine the invitations to join us. And then our first gathering of about 40 people in New Harmony, Indiana, in a utopian encampment where we began to form this organization. And it was exciting. And this is exciting to see so many of you participate. And to my friend John Darby at the Schubert organization.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, John. Who does great work in keeping the Schubert theaters not only restored, but beautiful. And I'm just so excited that you have brought along the three major theater owners in New York, but theater owners across the country. It's been an exciting trip to watch all of you take your facilities and make them living theaters again. When Goodspeed was being restored in the early 60s, it was 1963 when I was a student at the Yale Drama School, and my professor said, they're doing this theater over on the Connecticut River, go there. You can write a paper for me, and you can turn it in the drama school as well, and get double credit. That was my architecture professor. I did that. And I eventually got hired to be engaged as the production manager that year. Legend has it, and it's true, that I got fired 6 months later. I was a smart-ass kid right out of the Yale Drama School. I knew all the answers. And I was rehired again in '69 after having opened the Music Theater of Lincoln Center with Richard Rodgers as his stage manager. And the rest has been a joyous run. It's been a great run. And about 5 years ago, I finally learned that I didn't know it all. And as I pass on the wonderful work that my colleagues and I have done at Goodspeed to another person who will take over and who will make this theater flourish, it's an exciting moment to be here with you, to see this organization grow, to see you take your theaters and make them live. Because, as Peggy Wood said to us in 1963, and we had the great Donald Owenschlager as our theater consultant, and the O was, and the board was just restoring a historic building, and Peggy Wood said, some of you are old enough, I think, to remember Peggy Wood from I Remember Mama on television. Peggy said, if you don't make it into a living theater, why do it? Why not? Why do it? So the program that you put in your theaters is the key to making the theater alive and well. And I'm so pleased to know that from one end of this country to another, and into Hawaii as well, that the theaters have been restored and are living and are full of theatrical life in many, many forms. Presentation houses, producing houses, community centers of culture. So thank you for this. Thank you for what you're doing in your theaters, in your hometowns. And may we live another 50 years, and I hope I'm not there to be there.